computer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is everyone satisfied that it's on now?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Actually, come to think of it, I am rather enjoying old age in many ways, but there are some slight inconveniences to it.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Actually, thinking back to when I was very little and I failed to do my homework and my excuse was that I forgot, I would get punished for it. Whereas now at my age, in my 80s, people are much more understanding when I say that I forgot to do something. They tend to believe me a bit more as well than when I forgot my homework when I was 8. Right, so hang on, share screen. Let me share screen. This one, share. I think we got through all of this last time round, if I remember correctly. Was there anything that we had left undone, and had we got on to the recitations of it?
I think you explained it, but we did not recite it, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, right. That kind. Okay, I shall rely on your memory. So I'll just read it through once more with in a more or less prose voice as usual. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkha daha agama payano nityastasthitiksha bharata. So the sparsha, that's the Pali passa, the sparsha, the contacts from matra, the material elements, okanteya, are givers of, they're the da, that's as the end of a compound, the givers of cold, heat, pleasure, and pain. Agama payano, or agama apayanaha. They have the nature of the agama and apaya, of coming and going. Anityaha, impermanent. And tan titikshasva bharata. So tan titikshasva, by Santi becomes tan titikshasva. I can't remember whether we discussed last time this root tej originally means sharp and by extension firm. Keep, you're the cutting edge, keep sharp, keep with it, don't fade. This is a desiderative form. In other words, desire to be sharp, make yourself sharp, make yourself firm. So this tej, in the earlier Proto-Indo-European root, it had a s in front of it. So, and it was from that we have into English the word stick, which originally meant a sharp stick, and you stick a knife into someone. So it had that root meaning of sharp. And the same word comes into Latin as instigare. It's that stig, the same instigare, which is which we have in English as to instigate. The original meaning was actually prodding, as in prodding cattle with a sharp, a cattle prod, prodding with a sharp instrument.
James, sorry, could you possibly increase the text size of the? Is that something that you can do?
I'm sorry.
I can read the text quite clearly, but I wondered if you could just increase the text size a bit.
Oh, text size. Sorry, yes, certainly can. Let me do that now.
Oh, good. That's excellent. Thank you.
Is that better? Okay.
Very good.
Can I ask I don't know if you covered this already, James. If you did, please drop me. But
Yes, please, Paula.
did you talk about anitya and the origin of that word, etc., given that it's so important as impermanence? Did you analyze it already or not?
I've a feeling that I did not actually. Does anyone else remember that I did it? I don't think I did last time.
It's quite a long conversation about material world elements, measure and matter and all that sort of thing. So I don't recall a discussion on impermanence either.
No, so anicca, yes, you're right, Paula. It's absolutely central to Buddhist teaching anyway. And it's one of the three signs of being, which in Sanskrit, dukkha, anicca, and anatma, Pali, dukkha, anicca. What's the order? Anicca, dukkha, anicca, anatta, dukkha. So let me just discuss it right now. Just sharing the iPad. Come on. Oops. I'm just going to plug it in because there we are. There is I'm not quite sure whether it's mainstream. I haven't really seen it discussed much, but I think it is. We've got the Okay, can you all see the iPad all right? Okay. We've got the preposition mostly used now as a verbal preposition. Sorry, a verbal prefix, I should say, a verbal prefix, ni, which is with a transposition of the sounds identical in English and Latin as in. So ni and in are the same word. And then, of course, it comes into French as en, Latin, Italian as in. So that's ni. There is also a suffix tia, which is used, it's not a very much used suffix, but it means belonging somewhere. It's an adjectival suffix meaning belonging somewhere. So, for example, there's the word in Sanskrit, ama, meaning kind of at home or in one's intimate circle. And by adding the suffix tia, you make the word amatya, means somebody who belongs within your intimate circle. And it's often used to mean one of the king's ministers, part of the intimate circle of the king. This amatya turns up in Pali as normal phonetic mutation, amatya to amacha in Pali. And it means, it's commonly used there to mean a minister, a close servant or minister of the king. Now, if you look at nitya in the same way, and it's the same that we see in Pali as nitya, but of course far more commonly as in its negated form, anicca. It's something that belongs within. So in other words, if something is nitya, if is nitya, or more specifically anicca, it means there's nothing that inherently belongs within it. That was the original thinking. It's slightly speculative, so take it as such. So anicca means there's nothing that inherently belongs within it as its essential substance. It's almost the same, it covers the same area as anatta, anatma, non-self.
Sorry, so the a makes it the opposite of something that belongs within. So it's something that does not belong within.
Or something that does not belong within, or does not have anything that belongs within. And you have both meanings with this prefix a. And we do the same in English from Greek, of course. For example, theos is God. If you are an atheist, an atheist, or atheism doesn't mean on God or not God. It means somebody who does not have a God, or somebody who does not believe in a God. It can be not having something. So this could be either of the two. It could either be not permanent or not having anything within it, or maybe both at the same time. Many of these words embrace these meanings. We can analyze it one way or the other, but often, very often, it will embrace both. So not having anything that dwells within it. I emphasize slightly speculative. I haven't seen this specifically supported in scholarly works. But it's a helpful little idea. Sorry, go on.
The same idea as emptiness in the Heart Sutra, that things have nothing within them. Things are not things.
Yes, kind of yes, save that certainly within Buddhism, the anitya, Sanskrit anicca Pali, has the meaning of impermanent has tended to attach to it. So I would say impermanent, as translations go, is a perfectly good translation.
But I don't understand how we go to, sorry, apologies, but I don't understand how we go to this element of permanence from belonging. We were talking about not belonging within or not having something within it, but that doesn't intuitively go to permanence for me.
If it hasn't got anything within it, then there is nothing to be permanent. Permanence implies that there's something that extends and exists in time. If there's nothing present to exist in time, then there can be no permanence. There's just a changing pattern.
Yeah, but that then goes into you have to go through the notion of emptiness to get to the permanence, which doesn't sound like that's what we're doing here.
Now, this is where we have to exercise great caution. When we're looking at the etymologies of words, many scholars have cautioned against this, and certainly in a Buddhist context with Sanskrit and Pali, we must caution against this. A word might have a certain etymology, but to take that etymology then as actually defining the use of the word is not safe. It gives us a flavor of the word, how the word began, an idea of how the word by extension of meaning came to have the meaning that it does now in Buddhism, for example, but say, well, that is the etymological analysis of the word, therefore it ought to mean exactly that. Well, no. So be very careful with etymologies. Look at the etymology, for example, of nirvana. Nirvana It's from the, I think we've done this before. So have you all still got my iPad screen up? Okay, thanks. So now the root va means to blow. And it makes a verbal noun, vana. And it's that verbal noun, vana, is reflected in the Latin ventus, meaning wind, which comes into English as ventilate, to allow the wind, allow the air to pass through something. It's also the same word that turns up in the English word wind. So wind and ventus are etymologically from the same root. You get nirvana, to blowing out, which is exactly the word that would be used literally, mean for the blowing out of a candle. But now, when we look at what nibbana in Pali, nirvana in Sanskrit, is actually the meanings that the word has in Buddhism, is a very great deal more than blowing out. Blowing out is something that was there, becomes extinct and is gone. The candle is blown out, the flame is gone. So that was the underlying imagery that was used, because the meaning that the word has. And if there's anyone here who really knows what nirvana is, please do tell us. So it's by an extension of the original meaning. It's a use of imagery to extend the meaning. So have that background imagery, which we find in the etymology, as a useful aid to feel the force of the word, but not to get stuck. That's what the word must mean, because it extends much more than that. So on the one hand, we can be rigorous with the etymology, but on the other hand, we have to be much more fluid with the actual meanings that the words have come to have in Buddhism and Hinduism indeed. Okay, I know that might sound like a bit of a cop-out, but honest gov, it's not. We can be rigorous with our historical linguistics, but we've got to be a bit more philosophical and fluid with our actual understanding of what's being said. And for example, and Chris will know this very well, when people speak on the subject of the Advaita Vedanta, there are words are used that can be traced back to a very physical, homely physical meaning. But these are just the basic imagery for the extension and development of the meaning of these words.
I was just thinking, James, that if I was facing serious charges at the Old Bailey, I'd certainly like to have you as my brief.
Very glad to hear it is how I did actually earn my living, with a barrister's wig on for several years of my life. But anyway, thank you. I would almost get myself recalled to the bar to defend you, Chris. So so just look at the vana, then nir, the prefix nir meaning out. So nirvana, put dot on the end now. So literally just the blowing out. So are you satisfied with my explanation, Paola? Thank you. I'm so relieved to hear it.
Thank you. Yes, I get the extension via Barry's kind of narrative. Thank you.
Okay, right. If I were defending Chris, I'd be a little bit anxious if you were prosecuting counsel on the other side, but that's a different story. So where were we? Get back to it. So Madeleine, would you like to give us a recitation of this verse?
Yes, certainly. Madras Parshastu Kaunteya Chitosna Sukha Dukha Daha Agama Payino Nityastam Stitifshasva Bharata.
Okay, right. Very good. By the way, this ending, the asva ending, this is just the atmanepada, that's the kind of middle form, middle and passive form, imperative. So be, go, gacha, just normally just with a short with an a. But for the atmanepada, that's the middle form, it's titikshasva, bhavasva, gachasva. It's just an imperative form. Right, Barry, would you like to give us a recitation?
Matras parshas ta kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukha daha. Agama payino nityas tans tikishasva bharata.
Okay, almost titikshasva, titikshasva.
Titikshasva. Titikshasva.
That's good, perfect. Titikshasva. It's the root tij, and the j will regularly mutate to a k by internal sandhi when followed by another consonant here. So the desiderative form tij sa becomes titiksha. That's kind of a regular internal mutation. Very good, thank you. Shri Animala, would you like to have a go for us? I'll call up the Devanagari for you. Get all in the screen.
I have it, yeah. Mataras parashasu kaunteya sitosna shuka dukkada agama payino nityas tamsita samtisa titik sasva bharata.
Is it tans titikshasva? Tans
titikshasva.
Okay, excellent. Right.
Thank you, sir.
By the way, there's some.
Which one?
There's some tan titikshasva.
Yeah.
By regular sandhi, if a word ends in a n, not a m, but a n, and the next word starts with a t, you insert a s, and the previous vowel becomes nasalized. So, tan titikshasva, tan titikshasva, and it's pronounced with a nasal vowel. I mean, exactly like the nasal vowel in French, on la France. Also, it's a nasal vowel that you have in Hindi, and you have in Sinhala as well. And for example, you write to do, for example, Karanava, but you pronounce Karanava with an R sound, don't you?
Karanava, yes.
Karanava, exactly. It's that same nasal. The breath is still flowing through the mouth and the nose. It's not blocked, but it's just the whole vowel has a nasal quality. So the Sinhalese speakers do it naturally. The French speakers do it naturally. Hindi speakers do it. The rest of us have to make a little bit of an effort to make it. In fact, the French sometimes can't even help doing it. I was talking to one Frenchman once who he spoke beautiful English, but he just wanted to say "I insist," and he couldn't stop himself saying "I insist." I insist. He couldn't say "insist." You see, so it's very natural for the French to slip into that. I don't know, Madeleine, when you last heard a priest speaking in Latin in church. I last had the experience probably in my teens. And even when the French are pronouncing Latin, they'll still nasalize the vowel.
Well, I could not show the difference because I have, unfortunately, no knowledge of Latin. So when I was hearing the the Mass in Latin, I was much younger, and because now I don't go. Now I don't go to church. I have my own church at home, and so I can't say because I have no knowledge of Latin.
Okay, right. Yes, as I've sometimes said, I think the only advantage that I retained from being brought up as a Roman Catholic was that we did gain a fairly good knowledge of the Latin from it. Okay, thank you. Chris,
Thank you.
Thank you, Madeleine. We're round to you, Chris.
Okay. Matra sparshashtu kauteya shitoshna sukaduka daha agamapayano nityas tans titiks aswa bharata.
That came out pretty well. I mean, you could improve the fluency of it, but all the individual sounds did come out very accurately there, Chris.
I did a lot of practicing this morning, James.
One can tell, honestly. So keep up that practice, Chris, because I noticed. I thought that man has seriously been practicing this, and it shows. So it's an excellent performance, boy. Right, Anne, would you like to give us a go?
Okay. Matra sparshashtu kaunteya shishtoshna sukha dukkha daha agama paino nityas tamsh titikshasva bharata.
Okay. I'm just going to, nicely done. I'm just going to ask you to go through this little bit again.
Yeah, that's
with that
part.
nasal. Tas titikraswa. Tas titikraswa.
Tans titikshasva.
Okay. Another thing, remember, this letter that's represented as a V, as a V, when we're the one I've highlighted there, and it's this letter there that the end this the swa there. Remember, I mean, this is just worth trying to get it right, to do it the same way that it's pronounced among the northern Indians, and still now in Hindi and by the Brahmins as they chant the Vedas, that occurring between vowels or at the beginning of a word, it's somewhere between the English w and the English v. It's going to v. It's like a w, but with the lips almost touching, but not quite. It's half in a v and a w. Remember, for our English v, we have and this is the same with French as well. We have the lower lip against the other teeth, the upper teeth, v. In Sanskrit, and also in modern Hindi, it's both lips slightly touching, not a b, but just air slightly, almost touching, v. However, if it is preceded by a consonant, most r doesn't count, but if it's preceded by a sw or s or a d or other things, it's pronounced then very much, even in modern, by the Brahmins and the modern Hindi speakers, it's pronounced like a pure w. So swa. So titiksha swa. Titiksha swa.
Tiksha swa.
So even though written as a V, pronounce it as a w if there's an S in front of it. And it's the same, for example, with the word, which is actually pretty much identical from Sanskrit right through to modern Hindi, is dwar. Let me just... modern Hindi, dwar, Sanskrit and Pali, dwara. So written with a DV because it's the same phoneme, essentially the same sound, but in that position pronounced as a w. So here we'd say, and then there's the place on the Ganges, the Gurudwar, literally the teacher's gate, the Guru's gate, Gurudwar, pronounced with a W. So Titikshaswa would be the correct.
Tikshashwa.
Would be the correct.
Tikshashwa.
Titikshaswa.
Titikshashwa.
Okay, very good. Okay, it is a bit of a tongue twister. Right now, round to you, Kath.
Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agamapayino nityastam tikshasva bharata.
Kath, can I ask you to repeat the last pada beginning with ta stitikshasva?
I don't know if I can start halfway through.
Okay, if you probably... Okay, fine, and that came out with a nice nasalized ah. Okay, that was good. Okay, so we'll move on to the next verse then. But before we do, are there any comments or queries arising?
James, last class you analyzed the word dukkha into
yes, that's right. Yeah.
Dush and ka.
Yes.
And the explanation was a poorly centered axle. That was so meaningful to me.
Oh, well, they're very good. Just an axle that didn't fit properly in its socket. And gives you
yeah.
Bumpy ride, a rough ride, yeah.
But there wasn't the word axle in douche or ka, was there? I had ka as space, and douche as bad and difficult. So I wasn't sure where the axle came in.
The word axle does not appear as such in that word in dukkha. It's just you'd say your axle is dukkha. In other words, bad spaced, badly fitting, not fitting well into the socket. So you're right. The actual word axle isn't there. There is another explanation for the word. I can't remember if I gave it last time. Which I mean, with cut meaning space. So for your dukkha, we have in modern English you talk about somebody being in a bad place. In other words, in an unhappy state. Now, whether that imagery was present to the minds of the early speakers, it's impossible for me to say. It sounds a bit of a modern kind of imagery, and it may be just mapping modern English expression onto an ancient word, but at least worth noting that the point has been raised. I tend to go with the axle one, the badly fitting axle, and indeed it would equally apply if there's something wrong with the bones fitting into their sockets. If your hip bone doesn't fit, or the top of the femur doesn't fit nicely into its socket, that's very dukkha indeed.
So it's a lot solid. It has like a more solid meaning than dissatisfactoriness.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, at a retreat I was on last week, actually, somebody was why do we use the word unsatisfactory? It sounds judgmental, critical. Okay, stop. I wasn't running a retreat, so I didn't say too much. But people get stuck on these translations. There's no single word that will translate dukkha. I mean, dukkha. It covers anything from the mild irritation of not being able to get your key into your front door the first time you try. to come home to find that your entire house has been devastated by fire and typhoon. It covers everything, that life isn't totally smooth and just as we'd like it, from the minor irritations to the great disasters of life. People have translated it as pain and suffering, unsatisfactoriness. All these are partial glimpses of a certain aspect of it, and that this is a word where I think we're far better off just using the Pali and or Sanskrit word.
Thank you.
So, incidentally, for the give you iPad again. The root is this dus or dush. And by internal sandhi, the s becomes a h, so dukkha. And it's subdotted h followed by the k, then by regular mutation, that's what becomes then in Pali dukkha with a double K. Dukkha in Sanskrit, dukkha in Pali. It's exactly the same word and with exactly the same meaning. And the same dush, remember, that turns up in Greek as in this. So that's dis meaning wrong or bad, and we use it in many words in English. Dysfunction, dyspepsia, dysphoria, all the ones with the dys, means something's wrong about it. And it is exactly that same word with exactly the same meaning. And it's also the word, the verbal noun of it is dosha, which originally means a fault, something wrong, anything wrong, a fault. A fault can be, something can range from a minor spelling error to a geological fault that destroys San Francisco. So a fault, again, it's got a very wide meaning. It's also used in Ayurveda for the three doshas, the three characters. I don't know much about it, but I think the meaning there is that you have your humours in balance, and if they're out of balance, that creates a dosha. So it's called the three doshas, literally meaning the three faults, meaning the three humours, which, if they go out of balance, create some dysphoria, some dysfunction.
Would dosha in Sanskrit be spelled with an H or just an S?
I'm sorry, say again, Paola, I didn't hear well.
Would dosha in Sanskrit be spelled with just a dot underneath the S?
It would, yes. So it says, as I've written it here, dosha. And in Pali, it just
yes,
becomes...
sorry, I hadn't seen it, sorry.
Okay, right. So dosha, and in Pali, dosa. I mentioned Ayurveda. Are you all familiar with the etymology of Ayurveda?
Yes.
Okay.
Ayur as in life and Veda as in knowledge.
That's right, but the actual is the Ayu. So Ayu means life. In particular, being alive as opposed to being dead. That's Jiva Mrita. But the Ayu more has a sense of the extent of one's life. There are several words. One refers to being alive rather than being dead, and others refer to the extent of life. Well, Arabic has the same, actually. Al-Haya, life, means being alive as opposed to being dead. Whereas in the umr, you talk about your umr is more the extent of your life, as in Attal Allahu umrak, may God lengthen your life. It's the same in Sanskrit. So the jivita, jiva or jivita means life, being alive as opposed to being dead. The haya in Arabic, whereas the ayu is more like the umr, one's length of life. So the by Sandhi it becomes Ayurveda, literally life knowledge or life science, the science of the healthy life. This Ayu we have as aeon, which are in Greek, but via the Greek, the aeon. This yet became a verb in Latin, aevus, meaning age or life, which we still have in modern English as medieval. It's that same word. Now, we often find the v and g, one can mutate into the other. So aevus, same as via the French âge. There's a circumflex on âge, isn't there, Madeleine? L'âge, avec l'accent circonflexe, is that right?
Yes, sorry. Yes, it's correct what you wrote.
Okay, fine. So we have aevus becomes the French âge, which in English we have age. You live to a great age, you see. So aeon, the aevus of medieval and age are all from that same root relating to length of life. And Veda, of course, we know just from our well-known root vid, meaning to see or to know. So Ayurveda, age wit, you could literally translate an age wit, the knowledge, the wit, the wittingness that gives you a good healthy age.
James, before we move off that, could you just demonstrate the difference in pronunciation of dukkha between the Pali and the Sanskrit?
Of course, yes. In Sanskrit, or do it in Pali first, even though Sanskrit came first, or Vedic came. So in Pali, this one, which I'm underlining here, it's simply a double K, dukkha, dukkha,
yeah.
Double K and aspirated. In Sanskrit, that H is separately pronounced as dukkha, dukkha, with an H sound.
Yeah, right. I see that. Yes.
And
thanks.
the H sound, to be correct in Sanskrit, that H sound has got to be there. It's just by normal phonetic mutation that it disappears and becomes a double K in Pali, because Pali doesn't have that subdotted H. Now, there's another little twist to this, is that we've got the subdotted H, which comes out as just a sound. Among the Brahmins, I'm going to ask you to give us a demonstration in a moment, Kath. Among the Brahmins, when they're chanting Vedic, this subdotted H, in classical Sanskrit, they don't bother, they say dukkha. But in very correct Vedic, I'm open to correction from you, Kath, on this, the h sound comes out almost at the same place as the k, so almost a raspy ch, like the Greek ch sound, dukkha, not dukkha, but dukkha. In the same way as the H before a p.
In the Vedic chanting training that I did, I was taught that the H was pronounced as if it was after. So it's like, it wasn't dukkha, it was, that isn't a good example really. But yeah, you wouldn't hear the h before the duh. You wouldn't hear duhka.
Oh, what would you hear?
Dukkha. You'd put the full the full the normal aspiration afterwards. But then in Sanskrit lessons that I took later, it was insisted that the H should be pronounced. So
that's that. Do you know, I'm feeling slightly rattled here because you've just shaken decades of what I had assumed to be right. I need to do a little bit more research on that. You've just rattled me, Kath.
Yeah. So the word that comes up most often for me, in between two different lots of teachers, if you like, is one would you must pronounce it Brahma, but with others you have to pronounce it Brahma.
Okay,
and
well,
I think really
that certainly
that's
yes.
more correct. That's more correct, I think. Brahma.
Certainly that I don't have a problem with, because, for example, we have we write Brahma with the H first. Okay, that's normal. We'll all know that word. But you routinely hear it pronounced Brahma.
Yes.
That's routine. And that's kind of accepted. It's slightly odd because it's written as HM, and even in the Devanagari script written as HM, but pronounced as MH. So I just, yeah, that was okay. I learned that as a quirk where you departed from what the script said. Unusually for Vedic and Sanskrit, where the script is designed and successfully designed as actually a very accurate representation of the actual sounds. But to hear you say now that the visarga, which we have as the subdotted H, is pronounced now after its following consonant, as I say, I'm feeling slightly shaken in my academic foundations here.
Can I add
Yes,
something here?
please do, Madeleine.
From what I understand, is that because I follow some prayer and some sessions to teach how to chant Vedic prayers.
Right, yes.
And from the Indian source, I mean, where I learn these chants from Indian natives, they say it's Brahma.
Okay, fine.
But when I get some teaching from a Western teacher and all that, I noticed that he says Brahma. Of course, I don't make any comments, but from what I understand and what I am convinced is that the right way is Brahma.
Okay.
The right way, especially in prayers and
of course, yeah.
and chanting. There is no. I don't find any ambiguity or any. It's not a sin, but since in mantras, the Indian natives are very insistent on pronouncing properly. Otherwise,
they are indeed, yeah.
Otherwise, the mantra will not have any effect on us, according to their saying. So they are very, very insisting that we pronounce correctly, and the right way is Brahma.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Madeleine. So yeah, I don't think there's a problem with that. The puzzle will remain in my mind.
Yes.
Why is written M followed by H when it ought to be H?
Yeah.
The Brahma. It should be the M followed by the H, not the H followed by the M. So far, so good. what have you learnt about this rather worrying disclosure that Kath has just made?
I wanted to interrupt and say I think I'm mistaken about dukkha.
Oh, thank God for that. I was going to have a bad rest of today.
But it comes up often with Brahma, and I pronounce it differently depending on whose class I'm in.
Okay.
If I remember.
Yeah. So in fact,
sorry, James, but I have. Can we summarize your clarification on Brahma, because I'm confused.
Okay, right.
Kath said Brahma.
That is.
And Madeline said Brahma.
Okay.
And so I don't mind either way. I just want to understand the theory.
Okay, fine, not a problem. Happy to do it. Now, in Devanagari, this is the H, Brahma. This is the Hma sound. So it is unambiguous. In the Devanagari script, it is unambiguously written in the order HM, Brahma. When I started learning Sanskrit 60 years ago, again, among Westerners, it was, everyone pronounced it HM, the same as it was written. It was only later on, when I was hearing authentic Brahmins chanting, that I heard it being pronounced as Brahm, the other way round. In other words, not pronouncing Brahma, but Brahma. Oi, what's going on? And I then discovered that, okay, yes, we all know that in writing, the H comes first and the M second, so you kind of ought to say Brahma. However, by convention, I think by convention now, going back, centuries, millennia even, they are actually pronounced as if it's written the other way around, so Brahma. So it remains a puzzle for me. I'll see if I can find out why. So you write it Brahma, Brahma, but you pronounce it the other way around, Brahma. And this is, as far as I'm aware, the only occasion within Vedic and Sanskrit where you pronounce something otherwise than how it is written. Otherwise, the writing, the Devanagari script, especially for Vedic, is a very, very accurate tool for representing the sound. So has that dealt with it, Paula, that you write it Brahma, but you pronounce it Brahma?
Well, only that it goes contrary to the whole purpose of Devanagari, which is to transcribe a sound. So it's just hard to compute.
It is, and I still can't get my head round it. I can't get my head round it. All I can surmise is that it was originally pronounced Brahma with the H first, and that was why it was written like that. Because you're absolutely right. The whole purpose of the script was to, as accurate representation of the sound comes first, the script follows. And maybe just by a quirk of pronunciation, it came to be pronounced Brahma, but they didn't alter the way that they wrote it. It remains a puzzle. But we don't get too anxious about that, because it's, as far as I know, the only case in the whole of the Devanagari script where the pronunciation departs from the script.
Fantastic.
May I ask a question, James? But for instance, even all the mantras, they start with the Om.
Yeah.
But if we read the Om, it's correctly written Aum, and every Brahman pronounce it Om, and of course, it's very rare to hear it pronounced Aum.
It is actually, yeah.
This is an example, but there are some others also. I mean, it's difficult to understand.
Okay, yeah, that is. I think that's a kind of special case, because even the writing of Aum is, is a unique character. So this Aum, again, I rely on you to correct me, both Marco and Kath, about this. I think the it's theoretically, it's the three sounds, the a, u, and then the anuswara, aum, representing the a. Symbolically, it's the sound that's furthest back in the throat. It's at the opening of the glottis. The glottal stop is the earliest back, like the beginning of creation. The oo, as it comes out of the rounded mouth, oo is kind of the middle, the ongoing, the the M is the furthest out sound that we can pronounce with our mouths. We can't pronounce anything beyond the lips. The lips are the outermost part of our vocal organs. So that represents the beginning of creation, the sustaining of creation, and the end. So, aum. Now, possibly, they have actually, in the pronunciation, applied sandhi to the a and the u, because the a and the u automatically, by sandhi, become o. So it's pronounced om. Have you anything to say about that, Marco? That the om results from the sandhi of the a and the u, aum, om.
In modern India, also many native speakers they pronounce au as o, for instance.
That's right. They do
in many words, even Sanskrit, not only Hindi, and it's a bit confusing. But also here in Italy, we do the same with the Latin words. The diphthongs are simplified, and the sound has changed.
Okay, right. Yeah, I mean, many of the diphthongs indeed are simplified in, let's say, in Latin, auscultare becomes ascoltare, and of course in Italian. It may be the same phenomenon at work, but if it is the same phenomenon at work, you would still expect the Brahmins, with their purity of speech, to say aum, not om. In fact, if you look at the sound, look at this letter itself. You look at this. You've got the a, the letter a on its own, the letter u on its own, and this chandrabindu, they call the moon dot. I mean, this nasal sound. U is often written, like that, or with a vowel. So this is an invented character existing only in this word. So the a element and the u element joined. The aum. It's from a writing point of view, it's a unique character, and you see this shape only in the word or in the sound om. You don't see it elsewhere in the language. But yeah, and whether, Marco, your point, whether it's just a softening of the diphthong into a single sound by modern speakers, even Brahmins, yeah, that's an interesting point. I wonder if it is that. If anyone has
for instance, there are texts. I don't remember. Maybe it's called the an Upanishad, a very famous one, speaking about the three sounds and the three avasta, the three states of life.
Yes.
And it says that, for instance, each different letter of the word aum, separately, they meant a different state of reality.
The yes,
and also there's like the awakened state, the sleeping state and the deep sleep state, the dreaming and the deep sleep.
Okay, waking, dream, and deep sleep. Yeah.
And it says at a certain point that the practice of reminding oneself of these states of life, and there is also Chaturta, the fourth state, had to be pronounced separately. And the fourth state corresponds to the silence after the resonance of the M. So in a way, it says that the A and the U, they have to be pronounced separately in this text, which is one of the, I suppose it's one of the old Upanishad.
That certainly makes sense, because and that also coincides with what I knew or thought I knew or had read anyway, learnt about. They were originally intended as three distinct sounds. So I think that your theory, if I've understood you right, Marco, seems to be right, that they are notionally three distinct sounds, a, u, m.
Yeah.
But in the pronunciation of speakers, that the a and the u sandhi is applied, so it becomes an o.
Yeah.
I was taught that there were 2 beats for the o sound and half a beat for the sound. The whole thing is just 2.5 beats.
A 2.5 beat word. Okay.
Yes, and there's always a space after the o. It doesn't join to the following word like.
Of course, yeah, because the om, and this reflects what Marco was just saying, that there's a space of silence after the and it's a silence that, as it were, is an integral part of the utterance.
Yes.
You just go om and then straight om tatsat, om tatsat. The space is an integral part of the enunciation of this sacred syllable.
Yes.
Can I ask a couple
books about om?
Yeah, please, Paola. Yes.
So just 2 questions on so the M, I was taught, has to be lengthened and kind of pulled as at least as long as the I and the U. So it sort of is an
So do you mean specifically in the pronunciation of om?
Yeah, when it's chanted.
Okay, right.
So I'm not sure this is right, but that's what was taught. And my question is, when you say that this is Chandra Bindi, this M, and that it has a nasal sound, is the M is that the nasal sound that we're talking about? Does it refer to the M?
Okay, the Chandra Bindu.
Yes.
So I think it's pronounced with an M rather than an om. Do Kath and Marco agree that we pronounce as an om with a m?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the Chandra Bindu, it's normally in Sanskrit, this is Chandra Bindu, literally means moon dot. Chandra moon, Bindu dot. So yeah. Chandra Bindu is just the name that is given to this, which represents a pure nasal sound. It has 2 separate functions. One is its use in om, where it's just written to represent the m sound, and the other is in regular Devanagari script, where you, for example, get a T followed an N followed by an L, for example. Tan likati, becomes tan likati, where that Chandra Bindu is written over the R. But that's a specific feature of Sanskrit phonetics, and that's a different use from the Chandra Bindu as it's found in Om. Chandra Bindu, I don't know if was used by the ancients. It's the word that's used by, for example, in modern India to represent this sound. So you've got the Bindu, which is the dot, and the Chandra Bindu, literally moon dot, because like a crescent moon with a dot in it. But its use in on to represent the letter M again is unique in Sanskrit.
But you would say that the pronunciation of M is a nasal sound? Would you say that? Because
it is okay. It's a nasal stop. By a nasal stop, I mean by a stop, the air is stopped coming out of the mouth and it goes through the nose, just as so. But are nasals. So it's a nasal sound, but it's not the pure nasal. The pure nasal is the sound that you will get, for example, c'est en France, France, c'est en France. It's the sound that you'll get, as we were discussing earlier, c'est Sinhala, Carnaval, the sound at the end. That's where it's not a stop. The air is flowing through the mouth and through the nose at the same time. That's the point. With a sound, it's a nasal, but with the air flowing through the nose only. So it's a nasal stop. By stop means the air is blocked from coming out of the mouth, but it's coming out of the nose.
Thank you.
I hope this makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, yeah. The mouth is closed, so it can't come out of the mouth.
That's right. So the mouth is closed, no air is coming through. That's why it's called a stop. That's the definition of stop in linguistics. So letters like k, d are stops because there's the flow of air out of the mouth is momentarily stopped. And you get a nasal stop where you go there's no air coming out of the mouth when you say but it's flowing through the nose, hence nasal stop.
Yep. And sorry, the avus, is that life or age in Latin, or both?
Ivus.
Yes.
Ivus in Latin, ivus means an age. The word isn't used to mean life in vita is the word used in Latin, which comes to la vie in French and stays the same in Italian. Vita, that's life as opposed to death. But ivus means like an age or a period. And it's from where we have, for example, our English word from Latin, longevity, means length of life. From longus ivus.
Hey, I'm going on a tour of the United Kingdom. If you've ever been interested in that big question of God's existence or try to make sense of religion in the 21st.
What on earth happened?
We also have avo, avus, avo, like in Spanish, abuela, grandmother.
Yes, abuelo, see?
I suppose it's coming from the same root, medieval.
I wonder if it is. Yeah, that's an interesting point, Marco. Let me check that and see if I can come up with anything next time. So say avo in Italian and abuelo. Let me see if I can find something about that.
And also we say coevo, coevus, at the same age.
Oh, that's right. In English, it's come into English as coeval, meaning existing at the same time. Doesn't in English it doesn't mean people of the same age. You wouldn't talk about them as being coeval, but you talk about two things happening in history. Such and such an empire in China was coeval with such and such an empire in Rome, for example, meaning they existed during the same period of time. That would be the meaning of that word. So what would the meaning of the word coevo be in modern Italian, for example?
In modern Italian, it's like in English. You can say that, for instance, Dante Alighieri was coeval with Petrarca.
Okay, right, yes. Okay, fine.
Is used about historical facts taking place in the same period, more or less.
Okay, fine. So, in other words, Marco, it's exactly that same meaning that it would have in English. Not one of our most commonly used words, but anyway, there it is. There it is. So, is there anybody who has not had a chance to recite this verse and would like to?
James, did we reach a consensus about the pronunciation of dukkha?
Ah, sorry, it all started from that, didn't it?
Okay. That was at the top of the wormhole.
Okay, I think, I mean, Kath having scared the life out of me, scared the ayu out of me. But I think we can now more or less agree that Brahma, written as Brahma, is a special case, whereas dukkha, we do pronounce the H separately, and it's distinctly heard before the K, the same way that it's written. So we now make a slight distinction between the way that it would be pronounced in classical Sanskrit, that we can virtually say the time of Buddha and later. The Buddha's nothing to do with Sanskrit really, but from the time of the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, on classical Sanskrit. And the way it would have been pronounced in Vedic Sanskrit, or still is pronounced in Vedic Sanskrit by the Brahmins. So it's a distinct H sound before the K. Classical Sanskrit would tend to say dukkha. If you want to be very pedantic about it and pronounce it in a Vedic way, the H will take on a bit of the color of the K. So not dukkha, but dukkha. But that's being very pedantic about it, which is what we all like here, isn't it? Being pedantic about it.
Thanks, James. Thank you.
And the same apply. I can't think of any words offhand. Oh yes, hang on, we can. So, for example, the same applies to it takes on a slightly f sound. Let's take call up iPad again. So on its own, tataha, literally from that, and also means thence, as from that point. We say tatah param, from then on, thence, literally thence further, meaning as from that point, from then on. In classical Sanskrit, it would be pronounced tatah param. But in Vedic, this would take on a bit of the color of the p. So it would be pronounced like tataf, almost like a f sound. Tataf param. But nobody would blame you just to pronounce it as an ordinary H, tatah param. But I think we're all agreed that in Sanskrit, pronounced as a distinct h sound, dukkha. In Pali, just double the H without an initial, sorry, double the K, but with no initial H. Dukkha.
Thanks, James. Thank you.
Is the matter clarified to your complete satisfaction, Barry?
It is, yes.
I'm so pleased to hear it.
I'm much more. Thank you.
I don't like to leave unanswered queries around. Okay, very good. So we're 3:05. I'll have to be off as usual. So hang on, let's end screen share.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
Okay, so thank you all very much.
Thank you, James.
And see you next time round. Thank you all. Thank you. Thanks. Bye. Bye. Bye.